Pay the fine or prepare for a lien. Rules are rules. That is what the HOA president, Marla Keene, hissed across my porch rail, her clipboard pressed to her chest like a shield. It was Monday morning, and the light hadn't warmed the dew off my hydrangeas. She pointed at a printed photograph clipped beneath the form. In the photo, a black trash bin sat half in the street, half on a driveway. The numbers stenciled on the bin were crisp. The house number on the curb was blurred. "That is not my driveway," I said. I kept my voice even because my coffee was still hot and my heart prefers peace before 9. "And that is not my bin." "Argue it at the meeting," she said, "or pay today." Before we continue, please subscribe and tell me where you're listening. I'm Evelyn Park, 72, retired carpenter, and I built bookcases straighter than this nonsense. I set my mug on the arm of my porch chair. Time to measure twice and cut once. Monday morning smelled like cut grass and dryer sheets. I had my routine. I do 2 laps around the cul-de-sac while the kettle sings. I clip coupons from grocery receipts and tuck the good ones into a red folder. I sharpen a carpenter's pencil against the edge of my breadboard because old habits die stubbornly. Then I sit in my porch chair and I watch the early walkers hustle their dogs past my mailbox. Routine is peace. Routine is how I kept my bones steady after my husband Ray passed. I built the porch chair from quarter-sawn oak he left stacked in the garage. I built the planter box, the short set of handrails down to the path, and the birdhouse that leans a hair to the left because I wanted it that way. I do not own a leaf blower. I sweep with a broom until my shoulders sigh. Our neighborhood is called Hickory Court, a quiet suburb tucked off Miller's Road. We have 7 ranch houses in a horseshoe and a board of 3 who take turns reminding everyone they exist. The board rotates every 2 years. It is currently chaired by Marla Keene, whose age I will not guess because rumor needs no help. She is the kind of woman who says, "Per my last email," out loud. She wears a whistle on a lanyard, though there are no lifeguards within miles. The management company, Ridgewell Community Services, sends the notices. The notices live in a white envelope with a window, bolded type visible before you even slit the seal. I had one in the red folder. It was about the color of my front door. I had painted it cranberry without filing an architectural request because, as the bylaws clearly state, doors in the red family are pre-approved. That phrase delighted me. Red family. My door is family. I keep the letter as a reminder that rules can be read in good faith. The photo on Marla's clipboard was not in good faith. The bin in her photo had the number 19 in white. My bin is 17. The curb number in the photo was smudged where a tire had skidded through a rain puddle. I know a smeared number because I painted ours by hand last spring. I even took a picture of it when the paint dried because I liked the steady edge. I printed it and tucked it behind a grocery receipt in the red folder. I did not expect that habit to matter. "Evelyn, I am not here to debate," Marla said. She checked a box and scribbled her initials. "The fine stands. A second violation doubles it." "Would you like to take a walk?" I asked, "and look at the actual bin? I would like you to comply. The board has been lenient. No more warnings." She glanced down the street. On the opposite end of the horseshoe, a nearly identical ranch house sits. The owner is a quiet widow named Elva Perez, who wears bright scarves and keeps a ceramic goose on her stoop that changes outfits by the season. "Some of you think you are special, Evelyn." "I think I am a person who knows her own driveway," I said. My voice felt like cold water poured clean. She tightened her mouth. "Rules are rules." She pivoted off my path, heels clicking, clipboard tapping her thigh. The sound ran little nails down the length of my memory. I watched her cross to number 19 and tuck a duplicate notice in their door jamb. She did not knock. She did not ring. She hung the paper like a warning flag. I lifted my coffee and took a slow drink. I have learned, in these years of living square with grief and gutters, that the first step in an argument is not to argue. It is to check your tools. I brought the red folder inside. I set it next to my carpenter's pencil on the kitchen table. The paper smelled like printer ink and lemon oil from the tabletop. I slid out the photo of my curb number. The painted 17 steadied me. I could feel Ray's laugh somewhere in the process of my breath. "Measure twice," I murmured. I walked out to the driveway and lifted the lid of my bin. The white numbers were crisp. I took a new photo with my phone. I stepped to the curb and took another picture with the 17 in frame. Then I walked 2 houses down, where number 19's bin sat closer to the street. It leaned like it usually does because they have a cracked wheel. I took a picture of that wheel. I could hear the faint hum of a dryer from their garage. I looked up and waved at the camera mounted under their eave. "Just proving I exist?" I said to no one. Elva stepped out in a flowered robe and a scarf with cherries on it. "You too?" she asked, lifting a notice from her door jamb. "She left one for me. Says my porch goose is seasonally aggressive." I laughed because the world is not entirely cruel. "Elva, your goose has a Halloween cape right now. That is not aggressive. That is spirited." "She wrote that the cape counts as a banner," Elva said. "I am not supposed to display banners." I leaned against my broom. "We should go to the meeting together." "I do not like meetings," she said. She tucked the notice into her pocket with a sigh. "But I have Tuesdays open after lunch." "That will do," I said. "Bring your goose." Elva smiled with the relief of a woman who knows you are teasing, but also knows you might actually do it. "Only if we bring your red folder." We stood in the morning quiet and watched Marla drive away. The cul-de-sac returned to its soft noises. A bird hopped into my planter box. My porch chair waited in the shade. That chair has held every kind of worry these past 3 years. It holds some joy now too, but worry is a long tenant. I sat down and pressed my palm flat to the arm. The grain under my skin felt like a map. I planned my afternoon around printing photos and labeling them with a fine black pen because I like to give names to things that try to erase me. Tuesday noon, a second notice arrived. This one claimed my handrails were non-compliant. I had built those rails last spring after I slipped on my front steps in the rain. The bylaws allow safety modifications that do not alter the footprint. I had a notation in the red folder. I also had a photo of me sanding the rails in my old Buckeyes sweatshirt, Elva laughing off camera as I cursed a splinter. "Non-compliant how?" I asked the man who delivered it. He was young and kind-eyed, a clipboard in his arm, a Ridgewell polo tucked into his jeans. His name tag said Nate. He shifted. "Ma'am, I just deliver. You know that phrase, just deliver, rarely makes anyone look better," I said. I softened my voice. "Tell me what she told you." He looked at the paper. "Unapproved lumber finish." I blinked. "It is cedar sealed with boiled linseed oil. It is the safest finish I know." "It is the finish I used on the chancel rail at Trinity Lutheran 20 years ago, which children have gripped with jelly hands ever since." He laughed, despite himself. "I will make a note. Please add this," I said. "I filed a safety modification form in April. I have a copy. And I have a photo of the installer." "You installed it," he said. "Yes." He grinned. "I will write professional." "Do not make me a liar," I said. "Write competent." Nate slipped the notice into my hand instead of the door jamb. "There is a meeting tonight," he said. "They are trying to clear back fines before the audit. It will be crowded." "I make casseroles for crowded," I said. "Thank you, Nate." He nodded and jogged back to his small Ridgewell car. I stood in my kitchen with both notices spread like thin insults between my hands. The kettle sang. I added the second notice to the red folder. The folder was thick now. There were grocery receipts sorted by week with clipped coupons, because why let an extra dollar slip away? There were photos of my curb numbers, my bin, my rails, my birdhouse, my door, my hydrangeas, my porch chair. I am not a photographer. I am a person who knows that memory is kinder with a picture. That afternoon, Elva and I walked to the community room at the leasing office where the board meets. The room is outdated on purpose, a way to make people feel apologetic. Folding chairs, tan walls, a framed print of a sailboat despite the nearest marina being 30 miles away. A pitcher of water sweated on the table. A stack of agendas flapped under the ceiling fan. Marla sat at the center, flanked by a treasurer named Bob and a secretary named Jolie, who wrote minutes as if they might one day be carved into stone. Marla wore a blazer the color of a bruise, and that whistle on the lanyard like she expected a stampede. Ridgewell's rep, a man in a white shirt named Craig, stood at the back with a laptop glowing pale blue. Neighbors trickled in, a young couple who kept chickens temporarily, which is to say illegally. A tall man named Devon who worked nights and loathed early meetings. A woman with twins who used chalk on the sidewalk and had been warned for public art. It was a crowd of ordinary people trying to not be a problem. First order of business, Marla said without preamble, late fees and repeat violations. We will be issuing liens where appropriate. Ridgewell will read the list. Craig cleared his throat. Unit 17, trash receptacle left visible. Unit 17, unapproved handrail finish. Unit 19, grass length. Unit 19, trash receptacle. Unit 21, seasonal display. Unit 21, seasonal display. You are 17 and 19 now. Lady, you are expanding. I raised my hand. I would like to address the fines for Unit 17. Marla did not look up from her stack. Public comment is at the end, Evelyn. It is my name on the notice, I said. It is my bank account you are sniffing. I would like to point to a photo. She exhaled. Fine. 2 minutes. I walked the photo up and placed it gently on the table. It showed my bin, the white 17, the clean curb. I set another beside it of number 19's bin with its gouged wheel. I set a third with my painted curb number. Then, because I am not naive, I set the notice from April approving my safety modification. That is not the same bin, I said. And that is a copy of your approval. I want the fines removed. Marla glanced. The numbers are not clear in our image. The board follows what Ridgewell sends us. Your job is not to outsource your eyes, I said. My heart ticked louder than the ceiling fan. Your job is to apply the bylaws with care. She smiled like a person who has just found the word negligent in a crossword. Rules are rules, Evelyn. You can submit an appeal. I appeal, I said, right now. The form is online, Julie said without looking up. You will receive a decision within 30 days. I am 72, I said. 30 days is a mortgage payment and a winter's propane. I am asking for the removal of a mistaken fine tonight. People shifted in their chairs. Even Devon, who avoided daylight like a vampire, nodded. Marla tapped the whistle against her lanyard. The sound was tinny and mean. Public comment at the end, she said. If you cannot wait, you can leave. Elva squeezed my elbow. I can wait, she said. But I do not have to like it. Tuesday evening bled into night. The list of alleged sins grew. The chicken couple got a warning and a fine. The twins' chalk became unapproved colorant. The phrase tried to dress like law and came out wearing clown shoes. When it was finally public comment, I stood again with the red folder and the photos stacked neatly. "I understand you are busy," I said. "I understand your audit. I also understand misidentification. This is not my trash bin. I was at Mercer's Grocery at the time, stamped on your image anyway." "That is irrelevant," Marla said. "It proves I did not roll the bin," I said. "If the photo were of my bin, I would still argue the rule is applied without context. But the photo is not even of my bin." Craig lifted his hands like a magician who had lost his cards. "The timestamp is generated by our inspector." "Who is your inspector?" I asked. Craig blinked. "Ridgewell Compliance. The name is on the form." "What is the name?" I asked. Craig hesitated. "And Keen." The room made a small O of surprise. I saw Bob's pen freeze, then continue as if nothing happened. Marla's lanyard lay still against her blouse. "Is that any relation to you?" I asked. Marla lifted her chin. "My daughter works part-time." "It is not a conflict." "It is a conflict," I said gently, "if your daughter writes the tickets you collect." "It is not a conflict," she said, slower now, "because Ridgewell employs her, not the HOA. Rules are rules." Next comment. I breathed out through my nose. "I would like the record to show the name." Jolie's pen scratched. "She is a thorough woman. She writes like a tape recorder. It is her best quality." "Also," I said, placing a grocery receipt beside the photos, "this is my Mercer's receipt from Tuesday. Time of sale is 10:41 a.m. The notice claims the bin sat out at 10:32. My car keys are on a ring big enough to pull a boat. They were on a belt clip in aisle 3 while I debated olive oil prices. I was not rolling a bin. Marla's smile faltered. "You can email that to the board." "I will," I said. "And I will also email the bylaw that prohibits any board member from approving or benefiting from a contract where a family member is paid without disclosure and vote." I kept my voice mild. "We can all read the same book. We may as well." Her eyes chilled. "Sit down, Evelyn." "I will, Madam President." I smiled at the formality. But I am not done. Wednesday morning, an orange sticker was slapped on my mailbox post. It read in block letters, "Probationary status." I peeled it off, carefully, and pressed it to a page in the red folder. Nate drove by, saw me cataloging, and parked. "That should not have gone up," he said, jogging to my porch. "Probation is for unpaid dues." "My dues are paid," I said. I handed him the printed page from my online bank showing the draft. I paid the moment the calendar ticked, nailed it right on the 1st of the month. He glanced at the page and nodded. "You are up to date. I will take the sticker down from the system." "You can remove it from the poll too," I said. He laughed. "I can. I will mark it erased by resident and log a corrective." "Make it honest," I said. "Write erased by resident with a steady hand and a sense of humor." He grinned. "I wish I could." He lowered his voice. "Look, off the record. People are unhappy, and not just here. Ridgewell has a statewide audit next month. A lot of complaints mention conflicts and fines attached to the same names." "Keen," I said. "Among others," he said. "I probably should not have said that." "You did not," I said. "We shared a weather report." He exhaled. "There is a special session tonight." 7. They want to push lien votes before the fiscal closes. "So fast," I said. My handrails were warm from the Sunday. My chair sat in its patch of light like a promise. I tapped the arm with the pad of my finger. Speed favors the careless. "Thank you, Nate." He walked away with his clipboard and his kindness. I spent the afternoon assembling a clean story. The red folder had grown fat. I thinned it with a mind to clarity. I added my April safety mod approval. I added the curb number photo with the date stamped. I added a printed email from last winter when Marla denied a community potluck because of food liability, then asked for volunteers for a bake sale the following week. Not relevant to bins, perhaps, but relevant to pattern. I added a copy of a letter from my late husband's union confirming my pension adjustment last December, a small raise that let me keep the thermostat at 70. I did not plan to use that letter. It was a reminder to myself. Dignity lives in numbers too. I printed one more thing. An email to Ridgewell's HR asking them, plainly, to confirm whether A. Keene was employed, in what capacity, and what their conflict policy stated. I did not expect a reply before the meeting. I sent it anyway. Measuring twice is sometimes a prayer you do not name. At 6:30, Elva showed up in a scarf with lemons and a tote bag with her ceramic goose inside, wrapped in a towel. "I am ready to menace the establishment," she said. "Slow menace," I said. "We are women of patience." "Women of receipts," she said, tapping the red folder. We walked under a sky that looked like someone had washed it with milk. The community room lights buzzed with the sound of a fluorescent hive. Chairs scraped. People murmured. Marla sat forward, lips pressed. Craig's laptop glowed pale as a fish. The special session opened with a statement about protecting property values. I have lived long enough to hear that phrase used to justify every kind of meanness. It is a way to say beauty lives in sameness. It is a way to say obedience looks like love. "We need to move through old business," Marla said. "Liens on back fines, Ridgewell, the list." Craig cleared his throat. Unit 17. "Madam President," I said, standing. "Before you vote a lien, I would like to state a conflict for the record." Murmurs. Someone coughed. Marla lifted her whistle as if it were a gavel. "Public comment later, Evelyn." "This is not comment," I said. "This is disclosure. The compliance officer, A. Keynes, who wrote the tickets, is your daughter. If she is employed by Ridgewell and writes citations in our community, the bylaws require disclosure and a vote on whether she may work here. That vote has not occurred." "You do not decide procedure," Marla said. "The bylaws decide," I said, holding up the page. Section 6.3, Conflicts of Interest. "No board member may approve, direct, or financially benefit from a contract with a family member without disclosure and a vote of the membership. If your daughter is being paid to patrol, you are benefiting in your household. You are also approving the very citations you read." "It is not a benefit," she said through her teeth. "It is low hourly work." "The amount does not matter," I said. "What matters is the relationship." Jolie's pen ticked like a metronome. Bob cleared his throat. "I was not aware," he said. He checked his notes as if the admission might be hiding under his pen cap. Craig shifted like a man standing in a sudden draft. "Ridgewell hires compliance personnel. The HOA does not approve individual assignments. We assign by geography." "Do you assign daughters to mothers?" I asked. "Is that standard geography where you come from?" A few laughs cracked open the room. People sat straighter. When dignity walks into a room, your spine remembers. Marla's jaw worked. "We are drifting. Unit 17 owes fines. We will vote." "This is not drift," I said. "This is the riverbed." I set the photo of my bin on the table again. I set the curb photo. I set the grocery receipt. I set the safety mod approval. I placed each like a card at a dealer's steady pace. Then I added a final page. It was a one-page confirmation from Ridgewell's HR that had landed in my inbox 20 minutes earlier. I had printed it on my way out the door, ink still warm. It was not fancy. It was a real letter. It read, "To whom it may concern, This letter confirms that Miss Amber Keene is employed as a part-time compliance contractor with Ridgewell Community Services. Ridgewell's conflict of interest policy prohibits assignment of compliance contractors to communities where an immediate family member sits on the governing board without a vote of the membership and disclosure. Ms. Keene's assignments are currently under review. Sincerely, HR Director Leah Chen. I read it out loud. The room made that soft "oh" again, louder this time. Craig took the paper, scanned it, and lost a shade of color. Marla's lips whitened. "Where did you get that?" "I asked HR," I said, "the same way I painted my curb." Carefully. "It is not proof of anything," she said. "My daughter is fair." She cited 19:2. I nodded. Yes. Which is why this is about a system, not a family. Devin stood from the second row. He works nights loading semi-trailers, and he moves like a tree that has learned to bend in wind. "Madam President," he said, and the title in his mouth sounded like a choice. "The letter says there must be a vote." Why was there not a vote? Marla gripped her whistle. "We did not need one. Ridgewell hires C. We do not control that. Rules are rules." "Then the rule you picked is convenient," Elva said, voice small but sharp. She set her toad on the floor, and the goose's beak peeked out like an eager witness. "And the fine you picked was wrong." I took a breath and chose my next words the way I used to choose a finish for a piece of oak. Intentional. Patient. We will all be dead someday. I would like to spend the days I have left in a neighborhood that treats people like neighbors. Remove the fines for Unit 17 tonight. Pause the rest until the assignment question is resolved. Hold a vote. Bob rubbed his forehead with 2 fingers. He is not a cruel man. He is a man who nods in rooms to avoid conflict. He looked at Craig. "Can we pause?" Craig swallowed. "HR is reviewing, so it would be appropriate to delay enforcement." "It would be appropriate to rescind," I said. Marla blew the whistle. The sound was foolish and loud. "We are not rescinding anything," she said. "We will move to vote on liens." They voted 2-1 to approve lien proceedings on all unresolved back fines, which is like saying they voted to pour kerosene on the floor and light a match because the room felt chilly. The room erupted. People stood and talked over one another, voices sharp with the panic of bills and dignity. Craig tried to calm it with his palms. Jolie scribbled, then stopped scribbling because even she saw that the minutes of a stampede read like an indictment. I did not shout. I felt something colder than anger move through my chest. I felt the old ache that grief teaches you, that sense of the world being poorly constructed and your hands being too small. I looked at Marla and saw not a villain, but a frightened person who mistakenly believed control is a synonym for safety. That did not make her right. It only made her human. "Meeting adjourned," she said finally, banging the table with her palm. The whistle lay defeated on the wood. People filed out muttering. Devin shook his head and left fast because he had a shift to make if he wanted his kids in shoes by winter. The chicken couple held hands like a raft. Elva and I sat for a minute and watched the dust resettle in the light. "You okay?" she asked. "I am not," I said, "but I am steady." "You looked like a storm that learned manners," she said. I smiled without a lot of heat. "I am thinking." "Of what?" she asked. "Of how people forget that bylaws are a promise," I said, "not a weapon. And about who else might be watching." Elva tilted her head. "You think someone bigger is noticing?" "I think HR does not write letters for sport," I said, "and audits are not birthday parties." We walked home under a dark sky that smelled like damp earth and lost patience. At my door, an envelope waited, slid under the mat. It was not Ridgewell's windowed white. It was manila. I picked it up and felt the weight of a photocopied stack. Inside were 5 more citations, all dated that afternoon. All for me. A cracked bird bath. A porch ornament representing livestock. A decorative wind chime audible from the sidewalk. An unapproved exterior art object. And, my favorite, railings present. I laughed once, a sharp bark that had no mirth. Elva peered over my shoulder. They did not. They did, I said. They turned my handrails into a sin. They are trying to break you, she said. They do not know what I am made of, I said. I did not sleep well. I sat in my porch chair with a blanket over my knees and watched the street lamps give the night a strange halo. At midnight, my phone chimed. A new email. From HR Director Leah Chen. Miss Park, it read. Further to our earlier confirmation, we are scheduling a site visit to review compliance assignment conflicts in Hickory Court on Thursday at 3 p.m. Please feel free to attend the open portion of the HOA meeting at that time, as our team will be present. Best, L. Chen. I felt my entire body exhale in a way it had not in months. I also felt fear, real and heavy. Because when bigger people walk into small rooms, the floor shifts. You can fall, you can fly, you can watch others fall in ways you did not intend. Wednesday bled into Thursday with molasses speed. I cleaned my kitchen counter because if the ship is sinking, you polish the brass. I sharpened my carpenter's pencil. I wrote a list on a legal pad with items, not arguments, photos, receipt, approval letter, HR confirmation, dues paid. I put a check mark next to each when it was printed and clipped. I tucked the stack into the red folder. I set the folder on the porch chair arm like a small companion. At noon, Marla came by. She did not step off the sidewalk. She did not meet my eyes. You are making trouble, she said. I am making a point, I said. You think you are better than rules, she said. I think rules either serve people or they serve fear, I said. And you picked fear? She flushed. You are going to lose. Maybe, I said, but I will lose honestly. She looked at the rails as if they were taunting her. My daughter did nothing wrong. I did not say she did, I said. I said you did. Her mouth opened, then closed. She took a breath and squared her shoulders. I will see you at 3. I will be there, I said, with my chair. She frowned. You cannot bring furniture. It is a folding chair, I said. A gentleman once told me you should always carry your own seat when you expect a long wait. Who told you that? She asked, despite herself. My husband, I said. On a fishing dock in 79. Something in her face flickered. Then the door slammed shut behind her composure. 3 o'clock, she said, and walked away. At 2:50, the community room filled. People stood along the walls. Devon had his safety vest shoved into a pocket. The chicken couple left their birds at home and brought a baby monitor like evidence. Elva had the goose wrapped in its towel. Nate stood by the Ridgewell table, eyes kind, posture braced. Leah Chen arrived in a gray suit, calm as a librarian, flanked by a man in a blue tie who introduced himself as counsel. She shook hands like a person who knows she will not forget your name. She looked at Marla and smiled with professional warmth. Thank you for hosting, she said. We will observe the open session before the executive portion. Marla nodded, her smile stuck like tape. Of course. The meeting began. The whistle was nowhere in sight. The air felt like a low drumbeat. When Craig read the list and my number came up again, a small wave of murmurs rippled. Unit 17, he said, multiple violations. Leah lifted a hand. Before we proceed with enforcement, I would like to read a statement regarding contractor assignments. Marla's mouth opened and closed like a fish stranded in Sunday. The room leaned in. I set the red folder on my lap. I could feel the grain of my porch chair in my palm as if it were here. I could feel Ray's laugh in the back of my throat. I could feel the line I was about to cross, and I stepped over it with both feet. Leah set her folder on the table and read without drama. Ridgewell's conflict policy bars assignment, where an immediate family member sits on the board without a member vote and disclosure. We will pause enforcement actions tied to those assignments while we review. Marla cleared her throat. With respect, that is Ridgewell policy. This board still votes on fines. Leah nodded. Of course. And the board can only vote on fines that exist. For Unit 17, we have a second matter. She glanced at Craig. Please display the field photo. Craig turned the laptop to face the room. The image filled the screen. The bin sat crooked on a driveway. The wheel looked chewed. The curb number was smudged. Leah held a printed copy next to it. For the record, the container in the photo is marked 19. The violation was assigned to 17. I stood. My bin is 17. My photo shows it. My receipt shows I was at Mercer's when your image time reads. Leah held up my grocery receipt and the photo of my curb. We have examined both. Marla leaned forward. Anyone could write a number on a bin after the fact. Elva gasped. You think she forged a trash can? I said anyone could, Marla replied. Rules are rules. We do not throw out a citation based on homemade pictures. Then throw it out based on the contractor's name, Devon said, arms crossed. Your daughter wrote it. Leah kept her tone even. We are not examining anyone's character. We are examining assignments and facts. She looked at Craig again. Do you have the patrol log entry? Craig clicked. A simple line appeared with the date and the house number keyed by the contractor. He looked pale. The log says 19. I do not know why the notice went to 17. The room buzzed like the ceiling fan had swallowed bees. Leah raised her hand, and the sound ebbed. So we have two issues. The wrong unit was cited, and the contractor assignment is under review due to a conflict. Marla set her palms on the table. These people are gaming the system. If we start second-guessing every ticket, we will drown. I heard Ray's laugh inside my ribs. I spoke softly. No one asked you to drown. We asked you to swim with your eyes open. Leah looked from the screen to the stack of papers in front of her. Here is my recommendation. The board rescinds the fines for Unit 17. The board pauses all enforcement tied to the contractor in question until our review is complete. The board holds a member vote on whether any immediate family member of a board member may work compliance in this community. That vote should be recorded in minutes and communicated to Ridgewell. Marla shook her head hard. We do not take orders from Ridgewell HR. You take recommendations, Leah said, and you take responsibility. Your bylaws ask you to. Rules are rules is not a shield when the rule is yours. A few neighbors clapped before catching themselves. Jolie tapped her pen on the table and whispered to Bob. He looked at me. He looked at the room. He lifted his microphone like a heavy fork. I move that we follow HR's recommendation, he said. His voice trembled and then steadied. Rescind for 17. Pause enforcement related to this contractor. Schedule a vote of the membership on conflict assignments. Jolie blinked. She was a woman careful with verbs. Second, she said. Marla stared at them both. We are overreacting. Nate shifted near the back. He raised a hand as if he were in school. Ma'am, clearing clean mistakes is not overreacting. Marla picked up the gavel this time, a suburban wand she rarely used. All those in favor, she said, and her voice sounded like metal on a cold day. Hands rose. Mine stayed at my sides because I was not on the board. Elva squeezed my elbow. Devin lifted his hand. Bob's hand went up. Jolie's went up. Craig kept his on his laptop as if it were a flotation device. All those opposed, Marla said. Her hand stayed alone in the air. The vote traveled through the room like a friendly wind. People let out breaths they had been hoarding. I sat back. My red folder felt lighter by a pound. Leah nodded. Thank you. Ridgewell will note the board decision. For the members' clarity, our review of assignments will be concluded shortly. We appreciate your patience. Marla rubbed her brow. What about the rest of the fines? The grass, the chimes, the chalk? Leah's voice stayed calm. You will treat those as you treat any citation. You will apply your bylaws with care. You will remove anything written in error, and you will document your reasoning. That is what boards do. Marla's eyes flashed. You are making an example of me. I am asking you to read your own book, Leah said. She nodded toward me. And I am reminding everyone that a neighbor who keeps receipts is not your enemy. Elva lifted the goose in its towel so only the beak showed. He agrees, she said. Laughter broke the tension, kind and quick. Public comment, Marla said through her teeth. I stood with the red folder closed. No speech, I said. Just a thank you to Bob and Jolie for voting their ayes, and to Craig for pulling the log, and to Miss Chen for showing up, and to all of you for coming. I will bake a sheet cake if we survive the next agenda. Devin lifted 2 fingers in a peace sign. Make it chocolate. Always, I said. Marla straightened the stack of agendas as if the paper might march back into formation and salute. Unit 19's owner will receive a corrected notice, she said. Or a corrected apology, I said before I could stop myself. Leah gave me the smallest smile, the kind professionals get when the truth slips out of its coat. We are done with this item, she said. Thank you. The board moved on to the chickens and the chalk. They spoke slower. They listened more. The whistle stayed in a drawer. When the open session ended, Leah gathered her papers. She approached me with a card. Miss Park, she said, thank you for being steady. I am better with wood than people, I said. Wood tells you where it wants to bend. People pretend. People do, she said, but they also learn. I think your board will. We will see, I said. Measure twice. She laughed. And cut once, she finished. Rules are rules. Nice to hear that from someone who reads them, I said. I walked out with Elva. The hallway smelled like copier toner and summer dirt. We did not speak until we were in the evening air. She squeezed my hand. Did we win? She asked. We won enough, I said. That is today's size of victory. Across the lot, Marla stood by her car with her phone to her ear. She looked small in a way that made me feel sad and not sorry. Her daughter stood beside her, arms crossed, face closed. I did not linger. I do not feed a scene when its lesson has been learned. Friday morning felt ordinary again. The sun was plain. The kettle sang like a friend trying to be helpful. I swept my front path with my old broom and thought about the clean sound of wheat straw against concrete. A white envelope waited in the mailbox. Ridgewell's logo sat in the corner. I carried it to the porch and opened it with my pencil. Inside was a 1-page letter. Dear Miss Park, the board has rescinded fines related to the recent citations. Your account shows no balance due. We apologize for the error. For any documentation you would like to add to your file, please reply to this address. Elva shuffled across my lawn with a scarf covered in lemons again. She held up her own envelope. Mine says the goose is festive, she said. No fine. Just a note that his cape must be removed after October. I can accept that boundary. The goose has other outfits. Your goose is a fashion icon, I said. I made coffee for 2. We sat in my porch chairs. The red folder lay on the table between us. I flipped it open. The grocery receipt winked up at me. The photos lay in their plastic sleeves like patient soldiers. "I am going to clear it out," I said. "Not throw it away, just retire some pages." Elva nodded. "Put recipes in there," she said. "The good ones only." "I will start with cake," I said. "Devon has an opinion about chocolate I must respect." We sipped. The street hummed back to itself. Nate drove by and honked twice. He pointed at my mailbox and gave a thumbs up. I lifted my mug back. Marla's car wasn't in her driveway. Her windows were shut. A notice went up on the community board near the mailboxes that afternoon. "Special election for one board seat," it read. "Interim President, Bob." It did not say resignation. It did not say removal. It did not say disgrace. It said change. That felt right. Devon came by after his second shift with a paper plate and a grin. "My kids made thank you brownies for whoever saved the chalk," he said. "I told them about you." "I did not save anything alone," I said. "I brought a folder. The room did the rest." He laughed. "Then share the brownies with the room." We cut squares and wrapped them in napkins. Elva took one to the chicken couple, who were working out a coop plan that would not scandalize the bylaws. I took one to Jolie, who lived 2 streets over and kept hydrangeas so blue they looked like they had swallowed the sky. She met me at her gate, pen in her hair, soft apology in her eyes. "I did not know about the assignment," she said. "I should have asked." "You did ask," I said. "After. That matters." She took the brownie. "Are you going to run for the board?" she asked. "No," I said. "I prefer chairs to podiums." "You would be good," she said. "I would be relentless," I said. "And tired. Let someone else hold the gavel. I will bake cake and bring photos only when needed." She smiled. "Then at least come to the vote. We need eyes in the room." "I have them," I said. That night, I cleaned the porch chair with a swipe of linseed oil on a soft cloth. The wood drank it like a thirsty animal. I wiped the handrails. I wiped the birdhouse that leans a hair to the left. The breeze shifted and carried children's laughter down the block. A piece of chalk lay on the sidewalk near my steps. I bent and picked it up. I stuck it in the red folder with the letters and the receipt, not as evidence, as reminder. Saturday, I printed a recipe card and wrote in my neat carpenter's hand. The title read, "Measure twice chocolate cake." I set the oven and greased the pan the way Ray liked, with the corner of a paper towel. I brought the cake to the community room at 2, where a small crowd had gathered for the election. People milled around the folding tables. The sailboat still hung on the wall and still had never seen our neighborhood. The fan still clicked on its slow rotation like a clock that refuses to die. Bob looked flustered but kind. He opened the meeting and asked for nominations. 3 names went up. Not mine. Thank God. People spoke in soft, brief sentences about what they wanted. "I want fewer letters and more solutions," someone said. "I want the same rules to mean the same thing for everyone," someone else said. "I want to feel like home is a place, not a problem," I said, surprising myself. We raised our hands. The vote was clean. A young woman named Priya, who teaches middle school, took the seat. She looked ready. She looked like she believed meetings could be useful if people behaved like people. I liked her. Leah did not come back. She did not need to. A second letter arrived Monday stating that Amber Keene would no longer serve in any capacity in our community, and that Ridgewell would rotate compliance routes among unrelated contractors. There was no shaming in the letter, only facts. That felt right, too. I slept better. I walked my laps in the morning and waved at neighbors who waved back with their shoulders lower than last week. Elva changed the goose's cape to a modest scarf with pumpkins. Devon's kids drew a hopscotch grid that crossed the sidewalk like a small parade. Marla pulled up to my curb one morning and got out of her car. She wore no lanyard. She carried no clipboard. She held a small paper sack. "I came to return this," she said, holding up a polished brass whistle. "It was my father's from high school. I do not want it associated with this job anymore." I looked at the whistle. It was heavy for its size. "You do not have to give it to me," I said. "I am not giving it," she said. "I am returning it. You took a lot of wind from me this week. Some of that wind needed to go. Some of it did not." She tried to smile. It faltered and then held. "I am stepping down, for now. I need to figure out why rules made me feel safe and why that made me mean." "That sounds like work worth doing," I said. "I hope you have people to listen while you do it." She nodded. "I do." She looked at my handrails. "They are beautiful." "They are," I said. She handed me the sack. "Keep it," she said. "Hang it by your chair. If the day ever needs a whistle, I trust you to use it better." "I would rather bake a cake," I said. "Bake," she said. "I will buy eggs." She walked back to her car. I watched her drive away and felt the peculiar peace that follows a storm. The porch chair held me up. The red folder lay on the table with its contents thinned and tidy. I slid the whistle into the drawer with the spare batteries. I doubt I will use it. I like my voice better when it is quiet and sure. Sunday afternoon, the community room smelled like butter and sugar. Someone had brought lemonade. Someone else had brought samosas. The goose wore a bow tie. We cut cake. We chatted about nothing and a little about everything. Priya made a list of small fixes that did not require a letter. People signed up. Even I took a line. "Paint touch-ups," I wrote. "Free. Must tolerate opinions on shades of red." A neighbor asked me what I kept in the red folder. I tapped it and smiled. "Proof that home is worth keeping," I said. "And a recipe for chocolate cake." I walked home with Elva on one side and a cooling rack in my hands. My house looked like itself. My life fit me again, not perfectly, but well enough to sit down, set my mug on the arm, and breathe. Measure twice on people, then apply the rule. Dignity over convenience every time. If this landed with you, join me again on Quiet Revenge and bring your own small proof.